Hello everybody, welcome to Improving Distance Lessons. The idea behind this tutorial series is that we've been working with a lot of our teachers on distance learning principles, on things like teacher presence and cognitive presence and social presence, and teaching them about these concepts. But one of the questions that immediately comes back is, that's all good and well, but how do I apply it to the stuff I'm doing right now today? So this tutorial series is designed as taking a typical assignment that you might see given to students at the middle school, high school level, and how could we change that, improve the surrounding context of that assignment to make it better for distance learning. So we're going to apply teacher presence, cognitive presence, and social presence to this assignment to make it better. Now, there's a couple of caveats that we should mention before we dig in and get started. The first is that we're not questioning the nature of the assignment itself. There are a lot of ways you could redesign this assignment to make it different, more effective, less effective, all these different kinds of things. We're just going to take the basis of the assignment as what we're working with right now. So kids are going to watch a video and reflect on the video and answer some questions. And so this nature, we're not questioning that per se. We're going to take this assignment and improve how we do it, not essentially what we're doing. Changing what you're doing for distance learning is a whole different question. We're putting that to the side for right now. The second thing is that this tutorial series really is designed for, its application is for middle school and high school students. If you're teaching lower level readers or emergent readers, this should still work. All the principles are the same, but what you want to constantly be asking yourself as you watch this, as you're working through this series is, how am I going to make this work for my kids given that they can't handle this much text? Now, we'll also, having said that, we're also going to talk, especially towards the end, on how we can reduce text dependency in this assignment and change some of the things to make it less text heavy from a design perspective. And we'll talk about those at the end. So there's some ways that you might be able to use at the end of this that you could apply to all different levels of readers. But that basic idea, so that filter you want to run it through is, how is this going to work with my students given what I know about their ability to read and their propensity for reading text in an assignment. So with those two things having been said, what the next step you want to do is you want to have two documents ready. One is the Improving Distance Learning Assignments and Google Doc, and then the Sample Distance Learning Assignment Google Doc. You want to have those open and ready. If you're doing this in our learning management system, you'll already have those assignments open. If you aren't, you're doing this just through YouTube, those two documents are linked down below. One of them will prompt you to open a copy. You want to make your own copy of that. The other will just be able so that you can look at it a little bit as we're going through this tutorial series. So with that having been said, it's time to dig in and get started. Let's take a look at how we can improve a distance learning assignment in this step-by-step tutorial. Rolling on 3, 2, 1, and start. So now we're inside our distance learning assignments, the two documents that we've got in the course. The first one that we're looking at now is the Improving Distance Learning Assignments. And in this document, as we kind of work from top to bottom, I'm going to take a very kind of weakly executed assignment and step-by-step transform it into something that becomes a lot more effective. Now, as you look at this, you might say, wow, that's a lot of text. We're going to talk about that at the end, and I've spawned off another example that's a lot less text heavy. So hold those concerns and thoughts until we're all the way done. But this basically is where I'm going to show what to do. And then the second document is this Sample Distance Learning Assignments that you should have your own copy of. If you don't, you can go right here and just open up that link and it will prompt you to make a copy and you're off and running. This is where you'll practice what you see what we do in those example videos. In this assignment, by nature, it's obviously, again, poorly designed because I have no idea what it's about just glancing at it. It's a video on similes, a 4-minute video on similes and metaphors. So the idea is that the students are going to watch this video on similes and metaphors and then somehow show with a series of activities and answers to questions that they understand what these concepts are and can use them in their writing, kind of thing. It's a very simple type of introductory activity to this. You might want to watch that video before you start if you're using this sample activity. Now, one thing to mention about this, if you've got an assignment that's similar to this that you're working with your students, where you want them to learn a skill and then reflect on it or practice it and then answer some questions to show some evidence of learning, then you can use that. That's going to be for your students. I would encourage you to do that because then you'll finish this series, this workshop, and you'll have something you can immediately use with your students. So by all means, use something that you've got if you find yourself in a situation where you've got something available that you can use. But if we go back to this distance learning, let's take a look now at our distance learning assignment. Oh, I should also mention too, as we get started here, I'm doing this right now in Google Docs. But I've picked an assignment that I think would work in anything from a paper-based system, if this were a piece of paper going home to students, or if you've got something as advanced as a learning management system like Canvas or like Moodle, if you're using Google Classroom too, which is another way to get at this, or even if you're just using Google Docs. So some of the instructions and stuff like that are going to be dependent on which system you're using. But the principles are still the same, and this should work. You just want to think like, okay, I'm using Canvas, for example. I'd probably do the submission a little bit differently in there. Or I'm using Google Classroom, and that handles documents a little bit differently in the way the students give them to me. So those elements are going to be different, but hopefully those will be simple connections for you to make because you know how you're doing it with your students right then and there. So the problem, though, is we look at our assignment here, is we want to fix this assignment. And there's a lot of stuff wrong with it. The first of which is we don't even know what it's about. And to kind of put some context around that, just to set up what we're trying to do, this is an assignment that I use in my Introduction to Computer Science class that I teach through distance learning. And basically the idea in that course is we want students to reflect on certain social issues that are important to them, kind of be aware of their own activity and their own behavior within that context, and either hopefully adjust some of those behaviors or understand why they're doing what they're doing. So this video is, this version here is a link to, it's an 18-minute video by Simon Sinek, which is absolutely fascinating. Highly recommended on its own if you're kind of interested in watching it, where he talks about some of the issues surrounding social media use in a way that I think I really like it because it's not very damning or condemning of the activity. It's just reflecting on what's going on. So the idea is that the students watch this video, then they reflect a little bit about how that speaks to their own experience and their own actions, and then either, kind of plan some changes or say, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am, but we want to increase at a minimum, increase that awareness of social media usage. So those are kind of the educational objectives behind this assignment. And the idea is that the students are going to do this and learn those things and get at those things and reflect on those things. But as you can see, we have some problems here, right? Because if you look at this page, the first thing is like, I have no idea what it is. I mean, I don't even know what this is about. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? What's going on? And here's what I think a typical senior might do if they got an assignment like this. Because frankly, if a teacher puts in so little time and effort to making this a good educational experience, I don't blame a student if they're going to do something like what I'm going to show right now. So if I'm, for example, a high school senior and I look at this and I say, okay, I guess I'm supposed to watch some kind of video. I don't know what it's about, but oh, I guess I'm supposed to answer these questions. Let me see if I can do them here. Do you use social media too much, too little, or just right? I bet the teacher wants me to say too much, so that's just multiple choice. I'll just pick that. How does dopamine work? Well, that's just a little fact question. So let me open up a new browser window here and see if Google can help me with that. How does dopamine, oh, here we go. How does dopamine work in the brain? So there's a chemical released by, let's copy that. And oops, wrong click. Let's come back. And okay, now I can paste that in here. That looks pretty good. Will you do things differently after this, watching this video? I bet they want me to use my phone less. So I'll put that in. Done. Perfect. And so this experience that's designed in the teacher's head as a 45-minute experience will probably be executed by a fair number of students in about a minute, as long as you took this on me to do it. I bet most high school students are probably even faster, much faster than I would just do that. So there's a lot of problems with it, and the nature of the design is going to create a very low-level, weak learning experience. So we want to fix all these things as we go through it. So let's get started. So as we go down, this document's going to basically scroll down, and we're going to kind of show subsequent versions, each one with kind of one or two things addressed to it. The first thing as a designer I want to fix as a teacher to say, well, the kids don't know what it's about. We need some kind of a visual cue at the top of the page, a title to tell them what it's about. So I've added a title to this in version 2, Dopamine, Social Media, and Cell Phones. That's the name of the assignment. Now, the other problem with the assignment as it's originally designed is that one of the things that I ask when I look at a digital learning assignment is, can I feel the teacher? Can I feel some form of social communication in there? And is there some evidence of a teacher guiding, of students thinking and learning and processing? I couldn't see any of that in the original assignment, so we want to kind of piecemeal add those things, and this is how I would start to do it. The first thing is I want that initial part of text or some kind of instructions in there to be very light and easy for the students to shift into reading mode. I don't want that first stuff to be be very challenging. So I'm going to put a little bit of social interaction. I'm also going to kind of put my voice in it so they start to get that teacher presence. And I'm going to do a couple of other little subtle things here as I introduce this assignment. So here we go. I added as kind of an introduction to this. Good greetings, everyone. I hope you had a good weekend and are ready to learn this week. This week will reach May. I'm writing this now at the end of April, early May 2020. So we've got about a month left of school before summer. I'm super impressed with how so many of you are working hard to make distance learning work. Keep it up. And remember, if you're struggling with or unsure of anything, please get in touch so I can help. I know this can be challenging and I want to help. So there's a few thoughts that I have with this. One is I just want it to be light, friendly. They can hear my voice in their head and they can kind of connect to the fact that a teacher is connected to this assignment and I am their teacher kind of thing. Also, I want to put a little bit of kind of emphasis on growth mindset. So I've kind of praised the effort that I know a lot of them are putting in, which is I'm super impressed with how so many of you are working hard to make distance learning work because it is a learning process. Students need to learn skills. So I want to kind of have a light emphasis on that. And then also, one of the things that's so important in distance learning is encouraging our students to connect, because by nature, they oftentimes intuitively don't do that or think not to do that. So I'm constantly putting in references to reach out, get in touch with me. If you have questions, reach out, get in touch with me. It's all over the place. And that's the only way it works with students, is to really have to keep reminding them to do that. So I've got like a nice little friendly introduction here and I've got a title. That's the first thing I'm going to ask you to do. One caveat with this: if I'm doing this in a learning management system, I'm probably not going to put this in the assignment. It's probably going to be someplace else, which will help reduce the text dependency of the assignment. Also, if I'm just doing it like through an email and not a learning management system, this might be in an email, it might be in a conversation, it might be in a hangout session where you're kind of giving students instructions for this. But this part of teacher presence and social presence can be done in a lot of different ways. For the sake of this video series, I'm just putting it in the assignment, but it doesn't necessarily have to go there as long as the students are going to read that and then get to the assignment. So with that in mind, you have this sample distance learning assignment. What I'd like to ask you is add those two components, a title and some kind of a teacher presence, social presence introduction that's going to highlight some things that you want the students to think about or feel before they start the assignment. And again, keep the reading level capability of your own students in mind. So you might have to make it simple. We're going to talk about adding pictures and audio later, so we got some things there. But for now, how could you make something like that would work with your students? So off you go and get started. When you're done with that, let's go on to the second video, which is going to add another component to this series.